thanks to you, Lord our God, and the God of our fathers forever. We give thanks to you, Lord our God,
Connie,
and the
Pamela,
God of our
Grammy, Kay
fathers
Schaefer, 1777, Debbie, Melissa, Lady Grace, Carly G, Iceman, Images, Carrie, Max, Sure, and I've got breaking news for you guys. You're probably not hearing anywhere else. It's not in the it's not in the comment, but I got breaking news about Joe Biden. I do.
We give thanks to you for our lives and our souls, which are given.
You ready for some breaking news? You guys are the first people on, so I'm going to give it to you first. Like maybe 17 minutes ago, a video was released on the internet with demonstrating Joe Biden's likely Parkinson's disease. Go to joebidenisissick.com, and a researcher by the name of Ali Alexander, who is a Christian and a political consultant that I've been following, has just spent an enormous amount of time researching Parkinson's disease and researching Joe Biden's symptoms, and created a 14-plus minute video at joebidenisissick.com, and he literally just released it maybe 18 minutes ago. And it's going to eventually go out, but the only way you can see it right now is to go to joebidenisissick.com. And I did that, and I got my first email about it and watched it. And, you know, having had someone with Parkinson's disease in our family, I think there's something worth considering here. So if you want this late breaking news, just now, like 18 minutes ago level news, it's going to take a while to filter out, but I think this is the same guy that initially released the video showing Joe Biden calling the military stupid you-know-whats. And it was his research where he went and found 2 different versions of it with different camera angles and put it out there and researched it. He wasn't completely credited with his work, but you heard, I'm a breaking news reporter. But the same guy, Ali Alexander, just released this other video about Parkinson's disease and Joe Biden. Just saying, I figured you people, of all peeps out there, I figured you would be the ones that would want to know this. I don't even know if it can be shared yet, because it's just on this website, but it is going farther out into the world. So I'm just saying, all you of my 39 closest friends right now need to know that this is something you want to check out. And it is a fascinating look, and it makes you wonder what's happening and why it's, again, I guess I don't really wonder anymore why things don't go reported. Why? It's like, why would the enemy report to you who you are in Christ? Why would the enemy want you to know what's in Scripture? Why would the enemy want you to know the strength of your position and all of how all of heaven stands with you and agrees with you? Why would the enemy want you to know anything that gave you an edge? So for those of you who just joined, you're going to want to go to joebidenisissick.com and see a video that was just released 20 minutes ago, outlining the symptoms of Parkinson's disease and giving video evidence that Joe has had all these symptoms, and starting with something I believe in 2017, what's called a resting tremor. And so there you have it. There you have it. Sandra Jones, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I got to repeat it again because I've never been a breaking news reporter before. But Ali Alexander has released a 14-plus minute video at joebidenisissick.com showing the progression of Parkinson's disease and showing video after video. And he's got hundreds of hours of research into this. So we need to, it's not fully released on Twitter or anything. It's only in joebidenisissick.com. And, to draw again, it's just fascinating how, it's really an information warfare. It's really a psychological warfare that we're in at any time, especially as people who determine to live in authority and activation and influence and weight, to live with weight in all that we do, and to say, I'm not going away quietly. We're sticking with this thing. We're sticking with it, and we're going to leave our footprint. I'm leaving my carbon footprint on this earth, ladies and gentlemen. I'm making my mark. I'm going to make sure that I finish the race. And at one point I was someplace where a pretty famous pastor kept saying to me, spoke it over me 3 different times, do not tarry in coming into the reason for which you were placed in your mother's womb. I'm like, well, that's cool, but tarry, don't delay. Well, why did God put me in my mother's womb? I mean, I guess if I knew that, I could get at it. But there's this sense in which we have to decide and determine that nothing's going to stop us fulfilling the reason for which we were placed here. And of course, the number one thing that stops us from fulfilling our purpose is fear. It's in direct, fear is personal, and fear is aimed at your purpose. It's not just a thing that happens to you. It's not just random. It is aimed right at what you were created to do, and it's your greatest level of influence. So of course it's an information warfare. Of course it's a psychological warfare. And of course it's constantly happening all the time. Don't delay, don't wait, get there, show up, be it. Leave your mark, leave your footprint, even if it's messy, especially if you're a person who's determined to grow and you're in a sloppy state. Life is sloppy. Love is sloppy. Change is sloppy. Influence is sloppy. Kingdom is sloppy. Jesus said the kingdom of God is taken by force, and forceful men lay hold of it. That's a little sloppy, okay? The process of assaulting an enemy and dealing with the fallout, the blood, the guts, the war, the intensity, the second guessing, the questioning, everything that's involved in interacting as humans and being in battle is sloppy. And part of what stops us from showing up is perfectionism. And what is perfectionism? Fear. Perfectionism is another form of fear. It is setting the bar so high in everything we do that we say, unless I can do it exactly right, there comes shame and disqualification, and I can't be, and I can't show up, and I can't be where I'm at. So therefore, I raise the bar to some super high level of perfectionism. So either I give myself an excuse to show, well, I can't do that, so I'm not going to, or I'm just so terrified by that I don't. I mean, it amounts to the same thing. You raise your terror level and build a perfection and something that is just so high to get to, or you determine that, or you have an underlying thing says, if I am going to show up, I'm going to make myself miserable, just trying to do it all exactly right. Perfectionism is an interesting form of fear, and again, it's fear is this thing that is as a force, a spiritual force and a personal force aimed to keep us from showing up and keep us from being present. So it's all information warfare, and it's all psychological warfare, and of course spiritual warfare. And you can see now in terms that we're dealing with, like for example, with this JoeBidenIsSick.com, with this video that was released maybe 23 minutes ago. It's about not telling you what you need to know and not putting out, right? It's about you never knowing all the things you need to know that you have, that are available to you, what your strengths are, who you are. And it's also sometimes it's about hiding from you and from me what we need to see in order to make change. That's called denial. But the enemy loves that. The enemy loves to deny us in 2 ways. To deny us from knowing who we are, what we have, where our strength lies, and to deny us from dealing with the things that we're invested in that are in the way of us ever stepping up. Denial unto how much we need help, denial about our sin, denial about our relationships and our issues, denial about how much being afraid has cost us. Fear is very costly. Did you know that? We think the cost is always in the risk, right? There's a huge risk in never showing up, a massive risk. And it's a high level investment to decide not to be completely present for your own life. It's a high level of cost to decide not to learn to love. It's a high level of cost to be so completely disconnected from your calling that you just leave it on the table. And it may be, in the last moments of your life or standing before God on that Feast of Trumpets day when the books are open, and he goes, here's your heart. Here's what was possible for you. What was up? Why did you leave that on the table? Why did you believe those lies? We very often think that the greatest level of risk and the greatest level of pain is in the fighting, is in dealing with the fear, because it feels so scary, right? But I think personally that the greater level of risk and ultimately pain and cost is in failing to deal and failing to show up and failing to overcome the fear to completely get what you were created for. And so we're in the middle of a massive information warfare and infiltration. It's just almost to a ridiculous level on a daily basis with what the media will and won't cover, like not covering Joe Biden's potential Parkinson's disease as exposed in this video that you can get at joebidenisssick.com. And the mind control and the infiltration and the don't look here of that, right? And then you realize if that's happening in my external world and it's so obvious to me that it's so external that, I can't believe they won't cover this. I can't believe they're drawing everyone's attention over here. I can't believe there's so much diversion and so many lies and so many tactics to keep people under the thumb of a certain story, of a set of lies, right? When you see that, does it not, at least in some small way, make you wonder how that's happened to you, not just as a patriot, not just as a citizen of the world and an American, but as a son or daughter of God? Does it make you wonder, wow, I wonder what kind of propaganda and media and infiltration and control I have lived under because of the enemy's the attempt to just massively control my thinking and my mind. It's just something that I realize that is so personal to each of us. And we think that to go along with that and just to say, well, it is what it is, it's always what it was, I don't do that, I don't do this, I can never get to here, or I'll just be a mediocre person. I'm just not a risk taker. I'm just not a confronter. I'm just not particularly talented. I'm just sort of a behind the scenes person. I'm just this and that. We think that in some sense we're just avoiding all this risk, and we are, because I tell you guys to live in states of risk. But what I want to say right now today is that ultimately we think we're in a safe spot, but we're really at the greatest risk of losing everything that God planted in us and his purposes for us in the wake of avoidance, and in the wake of and in service of a craving for a safety that doesn't exist. Because the idea that we can be safe by avoiding the things that are connected to our purpose and calling, and avoiding so many things that we don't want to do that scare us, is really a lie. Because yes, you can create some sort of state of denial and some sort of state of self-protection, but it will always, always, always cost us more than we can even imagine in the wake of what we lose in the aggregate and what it costs us in our relationships and the people around us who are longing for us to be free. Why did I name this scope Say It Ain't So? I don't know, it just waltzed through my head and I thought, I wonder what that's about. Sometimes we just wish someone didn't step into our life and call it out. I wish you hadn't said that. I wish you hadn't brought that up. I wish you had just let sleeping dogs lie. I wish you could have, wish we could just keep that whole Parkinson's thing with Joe Biden under the wraps. I just wish we could kind of, go with the flow. Say it ain't so. I really don't want to deal with it. And this is our bent. This is our sort of safe, bubbly bent. But there's so much more that it's actually costing us so much more than we even realize, right? Is this making sense to you guys? I started out with my late breaking news, and that's where I kind of jumped off from because Ali Alexander has released this video demonstrating that there's a lot of evidence that Joe Biden has Parkinson's disease, and he's released it at joebidenissick.com. That's the only place you can get it right now, so I would encourage you to go and watch it. And he's a bright, young Christian political analyst who's pretty smart. And again, if you missed it, he's the one who released the video of Joe Biden calling our military stupid you-know-whats. And so, again, when we think about information warfare and mind control and brain control, it always brings it back home, right? It always brings it back to here. What I'm responsible for, what I'm showing up for, what you're showing up for, what we're allowing to control, the degree to which we really step in and say, no, I have to deal with what is. And dealing with what is not only our weakness and our failure and the reality that fear has cost us to live a fear-filled life has cost us far more than we've imagined. Dealing with reality also brings us to the point where we get to deal with the reality of what God is doing in us, what's possible for us in Christ, what our resources are. And this is not for the faint at heart. It's like parenting isn't for wimps. Fear-free living isn't for people who just want to be passive and expect somebody else to do it and beg God to make them feel better. It is really standing up and positioning yourself in your own life and letting God really show you what it's cost you to avoid, what it will cost you in the long run to avoid dealing with and being present, developing your relationships, how the waves of that will ripple out through your family potentially for generations, and also what is always and imminently possible for us in Him, right? Well, what do you think? I have to say, just personally today, this has been kind of one of these weeks for me. And for me, the exercise of even coming here and opening my mouth and saying, I'm going to be present, I'm going to be where I am, who I am today, going with what God has planted in me, what I am able to bring, even though I may feel limited in so many other ways. Each day gives me strength to have shown up, to have used my mouth, my cognitive abilities, and my faith to be here to affirm what I know is true. Even if I felt really wobbly. It's been one of those wobbly weeks in some ways. And even in my creative life, I'm finishing a book I should have finished in August, okay? And and the whole book release thing has been put off because of the school reopening issues. So I'm trying to get the second book, this middle grade fiction book done. And I realized this week that I have bit off so much. And the science of that I'm incorporating into the book is in flux. And so I'm having to deal with possibilities and changes and plot twists and character development that I never even thought about when I bombed my way through it every day. And so here I am in a hot mess with a bunch of characters in the middle of a huge crisis with a scientific plot and a spiritual plot and a relational plot. And but I just want to say that for me, every day being here with you has brought me some strength, some equilibrium. And I hope it's brought that for you too. So how about we both go do something now that scares us? Like I have to go to a page and I'm a little depressed because it feels so like I can't get my arms around it. But I will tell you this, when I show up at the page and just begin to literally risk into the words, right into the words, be where I am in the process without the perfectionism of what I thought it had to be like, it's always a breakthrough. Did you notice that? I want you to know that if you'll go show up somewhere today in an area where you'd like to pull back, there's always a wave of strength that comes from obedience. I'll give you a little tip. I don't want to adult today. I totally hear you. You know, one of the ones that helps me the most is when I'm feeling particularly lazy and there's something that requires me to get off my keister and get up and do something for someone else, but inside me I have a level of depression, sadness, or fatigue. One of the most powerful things that activates me is to just get up and do it. The dog needs to get out, get up and do it. Someone needs a cup of coffee, I'm going to get up and get you that coffee. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I've noticed that if I will activate into laziness and out of, especially when the laziness is pulling me into some subtle level or deeper level of depression, and you know, when you just feel like the wind is knocked out of you and you're just like after the debate last week, kind of felt like that. I noticed two things. If I will physically move my body toward an action that contributes to the world, even if it's a small one, let me get that for you. It shifts me out of a fear state, because very often passivity is a form of fear, because we just are afraid we won't have the energy. It's a lack mentality. Passivity tends to be a lack mentality, which is associated with fear. So that's a good tip, is to physically move your body toward contributing something quickly, even if it's short, and even if you go back down and sit down. And on your way, go back to sit down, grab a glass of water. That's really important, okay? The other thing is to speak directly into a relationship that you've wanted to pull back from. For very often, because of our styles, I'll just give you this personal thing. My husband is very often more of a connector when I want to be a withdrawer. And so I have this bubble around me that's kind of like, you don't touch this. Stay out. I'm not ready for you. Back off. I'm in my zone. I need me time. And I've noticed that when I'm there, depending on what's going on with me, I can discern an avoidance and a lack of energy and a lack of showing up. So I've noticed that when I go there, and it's not purely out of just a rest, but there's something else happening, and there's something else influencing me to step back from my life or my relationship or my marriage, I have noticed that if I will quickly get up, move my body, go to my husband and speak an affirming word or a thank you word, or give him a kiss or a hug when I want to hide and be alone, something changes. Again, it's a physicality, and it's a move into connection with somebody else. And these things are strategically important. and they put you on the offense and present ownership of your day and your life. Something as simple as getting up, but usually it's connected to what you give to another person, and it's an act of faith. Because when you physically feel weakened, tired, depressed, put out, whatever, it's a lack. And as I think about it, that's not a faith state. That tends to be a fear state. Not enough, won't have enough. I don't know, maybe not. Things are dark. It has a subtle connection to fear. And when we move out of that into a physical action of contribution, it shifts it. And even you go one more step, an emotional connection to someone around you, especially the person in the room that maybe you'd want to be pissed at, especially the person who's annoying you and getting on your last little nerve. Go there. Go there. Hi, honey. Rub the back. Love you. When you want to go, God, can you pick up your socks? Really? You need a shower. Leave me alone. I just want my me time. Do you get it? Do you see what's happening? Very, very, very powerful. It's a shift of the brain. It's a shift of the spirit. And it gets you moving. And again, grab that glass of water. Show up and be present. These things matter. They really do, because they create little waves and ripples throughout the rest of the day. Just stuff I notice. And when you become present, when you really fill out the bones, the presence and the space of your life, and you start to show up and you start to realize it costs you not to show up, you can realize that you can accomplish a lot in a burst of contribution to another person. And then you can take your nap if you want to, right? You still can go do that. You still have your quiet time. You can still set your boundaries. You can still do all those things. These are the psychological games and the things, but these are little tips that get us moving and activated, and keep the lubrication in relationships. The more we shut down, move out of lack, the crunchier it gets with the people around us. Have you noticed that? A few hours of kind of not flowing in some action of kindness toward the people around you. By the end of the day, everybody's a little, ugh. So, say it ain't so. I don't know, called you out, called me out, got to go do something, got to go face a blank page. I got to sit there and contribute into that page with all of its messiness, with all of its stuff, because honestly, it's going to cost me more if I don't. Even if what comes out isn't what I wanted or expected, I just know from experience that not going to the page and throwing something at it is going to cost me more in terms of energy and hope and peace and confidence than if I just go with whatever I need, wherever I am today. I'm contributing to this page, to this person, to this moment. This is how we shift things. All right, you guys. I'll have to let you know how it turns out tomorrow. By the way, please do consider going to Subscribestar. If you like what you're hearing here and you just want to just contribute $5 a month toward what happens, what a blessing. If you realize what an investment this is in your life, you can do more. I'm creating Mastermind small group. I'm doing one-on-one monthly coaching with people who want to work with me in a different way. And it's way less cheaper than most coaching, or especially therapy, and way less cheaper than drugs, alcohol, illicit sex. I'm just saying. And it's a cool way to for us to work together, and you to contribute and invest in your own life in a way. It's kind of like that sowing and reaping thing. Oh well. Anyway, I appreciate you guys, and again, check out JoeBidenIsSick.com. That's kind of cool. And if I get any more breaking news, I promise I'll let you know. Until then, do something that scares you. I think you have something